Galera, esse vídeo aqui vai ser um vídeo bem diferente, porque eu tô aproveitando um M&A, o AMA, pra gravar pra vocês. Então vai ser um pouco diferente, mas se prepare que é conteúdo de excelência. Vamos nessa, bota pra quebrar.
I thought you were going to say, did we learn anything?
So far. Some good dance moves.
Do you got it?
Yeah,
Come on, show
something
us.
like this, right? Got the sprinkler. Some kind of this thing.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, go ahead guys, take a seat. Mas assim, a gente quer que vocês participem mesmo, todos bem que você esteja doutor, meu inglês é uma bosta e tal, você não se preocupa não. Pergunta em português e a gente traduz aqui para eles, a gente passa a pergunta para eles. A gente quer muito que vocês participem mesmo e perguntem, interrompam, discutam, discordem o máximo possível para aproveitar um pouquinho do tempo que a gente tem com eles. So guys, that's it, let's get started. I would ask you both to share a little bit about who you are and why you're here and where you come from. And then we're going to start with some questions.
Sounds great. Can I start with saying thank you to everybody for being so hospitable. Portuguese is a beautiful language, even though I don't understand a word of what you've been saying. It's great to sit in the back and just listen to the sounds, and Sao Paulo is such a great city, and all the Brazilians I've met have been so fantastic. It's my second time here, and I know it's Cody's second time as well, but you should be proud. You have a beautiful country, and way too much meat. Too much meat. My name is...
Seriously, like everything is wonderful meat, cheese, and bread, and like...
And all fried.
It's wonderful.
So we've been here all week. My name is David Brown. I'm a co-founder and managing partner at Techstars. And my life is I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing startups all my life, and it's just been a wonderful experience being part of Techstars and now sort of joining the community leader team, all of you guys, to try to help entrepreneurs in communities all around the world. When we joined just over a year ago, it was so exciting because in many ways, first of all, we said it was Techstars and Up Global and Startup Weekend were separated at birth. I don't know if you know, but the very first ever Startup Weekend was held in Boulder, Colorado, and the first attendees were the very first class of the Techstars Accelerator program. It was an incredible experience. The model was a little different back then. Only one company, and everybody worked on it. It was called VoSnap. You should look it up. You should Google it. It was a disaster. But we learned from that, and Andrew Hyde took that, and then Mark Nogger and Frank and Clint did an incredible thing to sort of bring this to the rest of the world. It's so mission aligned with everything that we believe in, because all we're trying to do at Techstars is to help communities around the world help support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. In my lifetime, I'm old enough to have been started as an entrepreneur when the world wasn't very entrepreneurial friendly. It wasn't when I started in the 1980s. People thought entrepreneurs were a little bit like inventors. It's that thing your crazy uncle did on weekends. And my parents and my family and my friends all thought, what are you going to do for a living? And to sort of see the rise of startup communities all around the world has been an incredible experience for me personally. Part of Techstars, we've touched a little bit, but with all of you reaching out into all of your communities, it's an incredible thing that we're doing for the world and helping so many people in so many great ways. And so it's an honor to be part of this movement. I'm excited to be here in Sao Paulo. I have heard so many great things about great ecosystems across Brazil, and looking forward to getting to know many of you.
Great, and thank you. So I'm Cody Sims, and I'm based in Los Angeles. I've been with Techstars for 3 years now, currently in a role where I work across all of our accelerator and startup programs on both continents here in the Americas. Before that, ran Techstars Accelerator program in Los Angeles that we did together with Disney. So spent a couple years working closely with the folks at Disney, and more importantly, a number of really awesome startups in the media and entertainment world, including our friend Sphero, who built the BB-8 robot through our accelerator program via the relationship they got with Disney and Star Wars. which we can tell that story here today.
I'll seek that question. You should ask Cody how that happened.
Yeah,
how
it's a
PBA
cool
got
story.
into Star Wars.
But my background is long time product in kind of the internet tech world. So I grew up in Kansas, in farmland in the middle of the country in the U.S., and had a crazy idea to study Chinese in college. This was in the 1990s. And for some reason, after I finished college, I moved to San Francisco, thinking, I guess it was closer to China than Kansas, so maybe I could get a job using my Chinese, I don't know. I didn't get a job using my Chinese, but the internet boom was happening in the late 90s. I didn't even know it. And I ended up in a startup and became a product manager at this startup that got acquired by NBC, the major television broadcaster, went through an IPO on the stock market, and then like 9 months later, after the dot-com crash, the stock went from $110 to $2. Like literally, which is what happened to everyone in San Francisco in 2000, 2001. It was crazy. And from there, I've just been in the kind of tech online product world ever since. I was at the New York Times for a few years, building products there. I was at Yahoo for many years. Last time I was in Sao Paulo was actually in, I think, 2008 or 2009 with Yahoo, running an open hack day here in Sao Paulo with Yahoo back then. And then I was at StumbleUpon running product there. StumbleUpon was a company that Garrett Camp founded. Garrett is also the co-founder of Uber, so got to work with a really awesome entrepreneur then. And been doing Techstars for a while now, and it's just awesome. So again, thanks for having us here today, and I think we're here to just answer any questions you have about anything, whether it's startup programs, startup weekend, whether it's Techstars, whether it's what we think is going on in Brazil, whether it's questions about fundraising, whether it's what we think of the state in Sao Paulo. So, yeah.
Who's crazier, Trump or Dilma?
I think we'll win.
You win? I don't know. It's getting close.
Bom, pessoal, quem tem alguma pergunta lá, temos uma pergunta aqui. Poxa, logo lá em cima.
Boa tarde. O Aproveite nasceu como um programa de voluntariado, né? Nascido como um programa de voluntariado. E como que vocês como que vocês se dão com a situação de hoje, o programa que é voluntário, vocês terem muitos voluntários dentro do programa, estarem trabalhando dentro de uma organização privada? Será que isso pode inibir novas pessoas a trabalhar de maneira voluntária, pelo fato da cultura da app, ter sido a cultura da app hoje não ser mais assim? O que é que vocês podem fazer para motivar novos voluntários?
Pergunta muito boa mesmo.
Yes.
Basically, guess what's your soccer team?
Yeah, I think this is I think my sixth summit, and that's a very common question that you ask. I think it's true. Techstars is a for-profit, and we're a venture capital firm. But that doesn't mean that we have to make profit in all areas of our business. And certainly, supporting communities. Think of it as our nonprofit arm, right? We are spending money to help hire Tony and Andre, to help build tools, to help provide resources, to help all of the community leaders, not just here in Brazil, but all around the world, build a startup ecosystem. Are we doing it because it's good for us? Sure, right? I mean, I think more entrepreneurs in the world means more startups, and in the long run, that's great for not only us, but everybody. I don't want to hide behind that, but it's not that we're making profit off of your hard work or the hard work of the entrepreneurs that are going through Startup Weekend. We're here to support you with tools and people and anything that we can do to make your lives a little bit easier as you're building your communities. So I got the very short version. I just saw Lost in translation. Bill Murray talk for, or somebody talk for 20 minutes and then translates it to Bill Murray. That was my translation. That was my translation. He gave me 3 words.
Basicamente, para quem não entendeu, basicamente ele falou foi Flamengo.
He made the same joke, but the other way around.
Are you commenting anything? No. I have something to say about this, and forgive me, I'm going to say in Portuguese.
Yeah.
Okay? Então, pessoal, basicamente o que ele falou, só talvez para deixar um pouco mais bem entendido, eu fiquei muito preocupado também quando a gente recebeu essa notícia, né, que a gente ia deixar de ser uma non-profit, mas eu sempre enxerguei desde o começo o Startup Week e todo o movimento ao redor dele como um negócio social, muito mais do que como uma organização sem fins lucrativos. Óbvio, não dá lucro, eu sei muito bem isso, mais do que qualquer pessoa, tanto que é por isso que eu fico que nem um louco correndo atrás de patrocinador, alguém para apoiar, alguma bolsa para tentar aplicar, para a gente conseguir recursos para poder ampliar o time. Se desse lucro, acredite, não seria só eu e o André, a gente teria uma equipe inteira. Hoje sou eu, cadê o André? Já subiu de novo. Mas hoje sou eu e o André, a gente faz tudo, nós somos marketing, financeiro, legal, suporte técnico,
psicólogo,
RH, copeiro, tudo. Eu e o André fazendo tudo isso, não estou reclamando, faço com o maior prazer do mundo. Essa semana eu acho que eu não dormi nem um dia, sempre pegar de ontem, eu dormi 3 horas, o André está na mesma pegada também. E, então assim, não estou justificando, tá, Marquinhos? Mas estou só compartilhando com vocês que a gente também faz isso pela paixão que a gente acredita. E acho que nem eu acho que eu posso falar pelo André, estaria mais fazendo isso hoje se a gente tivesse visto que é algum tipo de vantagem, de benefício ou de agenda secundária, vamos dizer assim, por trás do que a gente faz. Tranquilo? Próxima pergunta.
And guys, thank you for being here. I want to ask you about the other programs. So, what do you guys think of Techstars?
Oh, Dudu, sorry.
Você não.
Você pode fazer a pergunta em português e o Diniz vai ficar aqui no palco traduzindo pro Cody e pro...
You tell me that he can't ask his question in English?
Yes, exactly.
What?
Brazil's not easy. Brazil's not easy.
Okay. Never mind, Daniel, please. Start in English. So, Thiago, não me atrapalha. Obrigado pela intenção privada.
So, I was director in Startup Next Recife last year, and I want to know about what is your strategy for Startup Next in Brazil and for Techstars as a program and Techstars Venture in Brazil. So, let's get in Portuguese. Pessoal, eu perguntei sobre o Nesse e sobre os outros programas depois de Startup Week no Brasil. Qual é o plano deles para o Brasil com o Nesse, com Techstars Ventures e as aceleradoras em si? Thanks.
Let me cover the second part of that first. So in terms of our plans for Brazil, we'd love to do more. I think it would be great to have an accelerator here. I don't know what you think. Do you think it would be a good idea?
Not here, in Recife. In Recife,
Not
my
here,
city.
in Brazil.
In my city, in my city.
Who thinks it should be in their city? I'm really glad, actually, to see everybody raise their hand. It's not necessarily true that everybody wants an accelerator, so I'm glad to see you say yes. We've been here all week to sort of start those discussions to figure out if that would work, how that would work. And we're making good progress there. I don't know, is it going to be, these things take a while, they're very expensive to get going, so, I can't say if it's 6 months away or a year away, but I'm pretty confident that it's coming. And no, I don't know which city yet.
Recife, sure.
In terms of the programs themselves, Startup Week, Startup Weekend, Startup Next, I think everything is pretty much status quo. In that status quo is, I think the graph I saw was some Portuguese words that was going up and to the right in terms of the number of programs. What you're all building here is great, and to continue to build Startup Next alongside Startup Weekends, I think is the right thing to do. It is confusing sometimes, and we do struggle, especially in the United States, as to what Startup Next role is compared to the accelerator, and I think we have to be careful that it's not perceived as the same thing. It has to be something different, but something that is community-led and community-organized is very much needed. That is very different than an accelerator, and I think the role that we can play there is to provide some content, even if it's recorded or remote mentorship, we can help provide some best practices that we've learned elsewhere to help supplement the current Startup Next that you already have.
It's been great being here all week and meeting a number of different startups and seeing the diversity of talent and ideas and progress that people have made in their companies here. Seeing the interest in bigger players in the industry here in Brazil who have an interest in working with startups, which is really important as an ecosystem and a community forms. I'm seeing a lot of interest across big companies, service providers, people who are critical to have involved with startups for startups themselves to grow. You ultimately need a full community. The entrepreneurs are the important part, and having great founders and great entrepreneurs in a community is what makes that community actually go, but you also need the support layers around it. And I've been really impressed by what I've seen over the last few days here. And as David said, we're going to take this and try to figure out how we continue to accelerate efforts here. The work you're all doing is absolutely that. So we can only do a small part, but to the extent we can be a part of that, we as Techstars, we're very committed. Brazil is an amazing market, amazing country.
Andre, do you want to translate that in 3 words?
Ele falou Palmeiras. Thiago. Oh, sorry.
Todo mundo aqui nessa sala vibra na energia da comunidade, enfim, acredita no poder dessa cultura, a cultura startup. Mas
Okay, I'll translate after he makes the question, Thiago. I'll translate after. Por favor, continua.
Enfim, mas a gente sabe que esse sentido gostoso de tribo, dessa vibe que a gente curte, ela fora dessa sala, fora de poucas pessoas, assim, ela não se amplia muito, né? Então e para muitos, a maioria dos formadores de opinião e stakeholders da sociedade, donos de grandes empresas, startup ainda é uma onda, oba-oba, espuma, né? E como a gente pode, uma maneira que a gente tem de ampliar essa percepção de vai lá e daí, Tony, senão você não vai dar conta. Eu posso parar.
Não, vai, eu vou tentar pegar a essência.
Tá, e aí a pegada, eu vejo muita importância para falar de Techstars, da gente trazer as acelerações Techstars do Brasil, é uma meta que eu tenho particularmente de ajudar o Tony e o André nisso. Só que o programa de aceleração Techstars é muito caro, né? Você falar em 3, 5 milhões de dólares para uma empresa no Brasil ainda não é a nossa realidade. Queria muito saber se eles se abrem, a gente pensar uma arquitetura diferente, um desenho, enfim, criativo para ampliar isso aqui.
Got it.
Oba, espuma e pegada.
Opa! É tipo o pitch que o Rafael fez aqui mais cedo, né? I think his question is, he believes in everything that we do, and actually he's actually a big supporter of what we do. He was even one of the sponsors of the summit last year. But basically, the question comes down to, we know that the value that an acceleration program from Techstars can bring to Brazil and to the ecosystem. The ecosystem is growing, it's getting more mature, etc. But maybe the format, or more than the format, maybe the price tag of bringing an accelerator, the cost of bringing an accelerator, from Techstars to Brazil might not be viable. So the question is basically, do you think there is a possibility of reformatting the program in order to how you say, to come to Brazil, to be viable here in Brazil? What is your opinion on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so every accelerator is different. Surprisingly, New York and Boston are very different than each other because every market is different. And so we have experience already. We've learned that, that we need to take those differences into account. So we have an accelerator in Tel Aviv. We have an accelerator in Cape Town. Cape Town, South Africa, is probably the best example of something that is very, very, very different than the United States or Brazil. You know, obviously a much less developed country and region, and the types of solutions and the problems that the community is facing there are very different than what we're used to. And the way we solve that problem is we have local managing directors run each program. And so basically, when we would bring a Techstars accelerator to Brazil, we'd have a Brazil expert run it. And the responsibility there, it's not running an accelerator, we don't view it like running McDonald's. You don't get a big book with exactly how much salt to put on the French fries and how long to cut them, right? You have some best practices, but you adapt it for the local culture and for the local ecosystem in any way that makes sense. So Techstars, one of our core beliefs is network over hierarchy, and that manifests itself in many ways. One of the ways that it manifests itself is the decision-making on the details of how the accelerator works is in the hands of the local person running it. And so I think the answer is yes. It would feel and be a little different here in Brazil than elsewhere in the world.
Cool, great. Okay, can I first?
Okay. Hey guys, my name is Valdo Gomes. Hey. We all know like Startup Weekend is a fucking event. No, I can say it is a fucking great event. You know, we have like a high value inside this event. We can change our life. Like I meet my partner brother here. The numbers are fucking crazy, you know? Like, we had like 40 events last year, and for this year we think we're gonna have like 90. But at the same time, you think like the impact of the event is gonna start to decrease, like one day, like 4 years, you know? And you think that's gonna happen, and we will have to control the number of the event in the country or like in the states. Tipo, eu falei. É só pra galera.
Eu acho que eu entendi.
Translating any of the jokes.
So, I know, I'm not translating, I'm just because there's a. Não estou traduzindo, porque tem uma discussão muito importante sobre isso que ele falou agora. I think that he's basically, going to the subject of number of events and how that's going to impact in the coming years and what is our view on do we need to grow or we're going to limit the number of events, and I think it's a good point to go into number of events versus quality.
Yeah, I was wondering what your view was. What is the best for the Brazilian community? Is it to have more events or have better quality events?
Prefere coxinha ou pizza?
É pra você traduzir a piada.
Please, go ahead. Oh, he's in the microphone. Eu amo isso.
So right now, like I see that the number of the events, it's okay, like if you start to increase the number of the events, the quality is gonna get down. I think now you have to think about how much event you gonna do, you're gonna make to keep this quality.
I completely agree.
Just 1 second. Do you want to compliment this, Brad? Go ahead. Speak loud. Sorry, we need the microphone. I'll make the microphone here. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add that the format is something like almost 10 years old, the Startup Weekend format. We have the other events, but the Startup Weekend by far is the biggest impact we have. And I just want to know if you guys are trying anything new, you're trying Startup Weekend 2 or anything like that. Or you guys think this is the format, we just have to change the people who are attending the events and make new communities around that?
Yeah, so let me address sort of both of those. You know, I think that when it was Up Global had a board of directors, 13 people. And the mission, as set by the board of directors, was reach, right? Get as far into the world in as many places as possible, as quickly as you can. And you know, that was what the 13 people told Mark as the CEO of Up Global. And that's caused a lot of growth, and in many ways that's been great. But I also think that I agree with what you're saying, that if you push to just grow, quality goes like that. And it's not our philosophy. In fact, we're talking a little bit about Techstars' core values. You know, one is give first, the other is network over hierarchy, I mentioned that. The third one is quality before quantity. We'd rather do fewer great things than a lot of not so great things. And so one of the ways that that's manifested itself is that whereas in prior years, we hope to see event growth, and this year we haven't made that a goal at all. In fact, our goal is to try to improve quality. And from our standpoint, all we can do is to help support you better, right? Provide better tools, provide better training, provide better communication, have more summits. All of those things have required investment on our part, and we view it as a drive towards the quality before quantity.
And listen.
And participate in conversations like this one. Which is why we're saying, what do you think? Because it is part of these conversations. We better understand what we can do to play our part in supporting you. In terms of the actual format of a startup weekend, it's certainly not my place to reimagine something that's working really well, that was sort of conceived by the community. The folks that work on startup weekends, like JB and Mitchell and Casey and everyone, and of course Tony and Andrea and everybody locally and back at headquarters that you've worked with, are still there and are still sort of helping make sure it's a great event. My sense is Startup Weekend is really an incredible phenomenon. It's been working really, really well. And maybe it's more Startup Next, for example, that we can help refine and make even better and make some adjustments to improve it. But it's really not for me to say. It's for me, as Cody says, to listen and to see what you guys think we should be doing to help improve.
Yeah, I would add that, you know, we're an entrepreneurial community and company, and part of what we all need to do is listen to each other, listen to the market, listen to what people are saying. So if all of you have feedback or attendees have feedback about things that should be different in Brazil, give that feedback to Andrea, give it to Tony. You know, I can't say it will change the next day, but collectively, the only way we're going to change is for that feedback to come in so that collectively we can do something about it. We're not the ones out attending every Startup Weekend event that's going on, you know, in Recife or Belo Horizonte or wherever. So bringing that back into us is how things will change. And, you know, I think it has been 10 years, and to the extent there are things that could be done better or differently or whatnot, we want to make sure that the product is as great as it can be, and that we're all doing things to help these entrepreneurs as much as we can.
I do have a question. It's going back about Techstars Brazil, Accelerate Brazil, and Startup Weekends. being one of the oldest facilitators in Brazil, the question that raised to me a lot is that, how to do the next step? I know that we have the whole entrepreneurial journey, but Brazil is really difficult to get seed money, and it's really difficult to go from a startup weekend to a company. We have really few examples. But the liquidity of startups in Brazil are historically bad. So how do you guys how do you guys from Techstars, you have accelerator, a venture fund, how do you guys could help Brazil in order to make more startups with fund or
Sure. You want to translate or just go? No, just go. All right, just go. You know, I think one of the things we can try to do is help bring big resources into the startup community, right? If we can bring people who have deep pockets and who have capital engaged in the startup world, that's a great thing. Tony ran a summit, is that just yesterday? Sorry? Was your summit?
Yes, it was
yesterday. Oh my gosh. He ran a summit yesterday bringing together a lot of corporate leaders from Brazil to learn about innovation and entrepreneurship, right? And that's something that, he was able to do because, they want to listen to Techstars. We're a global leader in investing in companies and building companies. And so they're all coming and listening to him and to us talk about how to do that. And if we can get them to bring, investment dollars and support and resources to the startup community, that also helps startups have access to capital, have access to business development, have access to distribution for their ideas. So it's not going to happen overnight, but that's part of what we can do is help bring those resources locally, and then globally, part of what we have is this network of great startups and companies. And the best thing, you all know this, I'm sure, the best way for entrepreneurs to help, to find ways to get help is to get help from other entrepreneurs, right? For entrepreneurs who are maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years further along in the journey, to give back and help the ones who are at the beginning of the journey. And it's just this amazing cycle that you can help create. And so that's something I'm hopeful we can also provide help with, is bringing, helping with mentorship, helping with access to entrepreneurs who have raised capital and who have done all of that on what's worked.
And I think, the only thing I would add to that, I agree with all of that, and the thing I would add as well is connections. And there's not a great automated system where, if you want to know somebody in New York, you can automatically get connected to Alex, but it's coming, and you already do have sort of less formal connections. Everybody knows Tony. Tony knows Alex, right? You now know me and Cody. If you're in LA or you're in Colorado, or you have a great company that that would like to apply to the accelerator in Chicago, we can help facilitate those connections. And just this week we've met a number of startups that are interested in connecting into the United States, and we're helping in any way that we can.
First question, do you know the President of the United States?
Barack Obama.
Yeah. Okay. Personally, do you know?
I have met him, actually.
Okay, so
I promise you he does not know me.
I was just wondering because if so, you would be a second connection to me now.
What's his name on Facebook?
Everything is a third connection. I just thought of this right now because you were talking about connections, but I want to apologize in advance because I already asked you this question on Tuesday, but I think the audience needs to hear also. Techstars uses the hashtag and motto "Give First," and I think we all, as community leaders, we follow that as our motto also. But as I ask you, sometimes I ask myself if, by giving so much and not looking to opportunities, or maybe giving in the right way, or I don't know how to eventually get back. And you said give first is not get never. So my question is, how do you think we as community leaders can look for opportunities, or maybe give our times to the right movement, or to the right, programs, or do this the right way so we can get back someday and get back the opportunities that we are looking for.
Yeah, I thought it was a great conversation when we had it at Kubo on Tuesday. So give first, if you're not familiar, is one of Techstars' core value. It's certainly the one that's the most known outside of Techstars. It started as an internal core belief. It was just something that we believed in human beings, that life doesn't need to be transactional. If we help an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean we have to get paid for it or get advisory shares or have some sort of compensation of some kind. If we're helping a community, an entrepreneur, even a corporate partner, a friend, a relative, it's okay to just give without an expectation of receiving something in return. But the conversation that we were having is, when is giving too much? Does it mean that you always give and you never receive? And the conversation was, give first doesn't mean take never. And it's just sort of this notion that if you're a giver and you're working with a taker, and they're taking and you're giving, when you start to realize that it's not meant that the other person doesn't mean it as a collaborative effort that you'll help me this time, but I'll help you next time. If you start to realize that they're just taking, maybe that's not the person that you want to work with as often. You just want to spend a little less time with them, or you don't really want them in your lives. And I think that has to be okay, right? Give first doesn't mean give always. Might be a way to think about it. And I can't remember if it was at Kubo, but in one of the sessions we were doing, we talked about the book Give and Take by Adam Grant. Yeah, it was there. And Adam Grant is a professor at, I always forget now, Kellogg or Wharton, the top business school. And he has divided the world into three types of people: givers, takers, and transactional people. And the really interesting thing in his work is that he discovered that of the most successful people in the world, are givers. But guess what? The least successful people in the world, and this was a surprise, are givers. And the reason the least successful people in the world are givers is sometimes givers just give, right? And don't remember that you just want to develop relationships with good people who are givers too. And if you do that, then you will be successful. And if you're just giving always, I think life can be pretty difficult.
Hi, I'm right here. So I was listening to venture capital in the United States, the founder of Íntegra, and he said that in a regular year, 10,000 startups are created, and 1% of all startups makes all the profit. My question is, are these programs really effective? Or what is the role of accelerator programs, and what is changing in the United States? What is the roadmap for creating better startups that are more successful? I'm questioning the programs. Are they effective, or are they going to change in the future, the accelerator programs eventually?
Yeah, so one thing that I think sometimes is interesting to consider, there actually, even though I think the accelerators and Start Weekend are very mission aligned around supporting entrepreneur communities and evangelizing entrepreneurship and helping entrepreneurs, there's actually a very different orientation to them as well that's quite important to understand, which is Start Weekend is about helping as many people who want to understand entrepreneurship as possible and really being open to anybody who wants to learn it. Anybody can sign up and come to a Startup Weekend, and that's great, and we embrace everybody and try to learn it. And the only way we get the next generation of entrepreneurs is if we make it available for people to learn what it is, and it's wonderful. Our accelerator programs are actually quite the opposite in that they are very intentionally competitive and exclusive. We get about 15,000 applications a year for our accelerator programs. Wow. And across the world, we admit about 200 companies. It's about a little over 1% of people who apply to an accelerator program qualify to get into an accelerator program, which is actually more difficult to get into than Harvard or Stanford or Yale. And
that is because at the accelerator level, it's not about necessarily just openly teaching entrepreneurship. It is an investment, right? That is, a venture capital style investment. We're investing in those companies with the hope that they become, great, become, outsized investment returns. That said, I think there's a lot of ways the two can work together. These entrepreneurs who go through one of our accelerators, they can be amazing mentors, they can be amazing community members for Startup Weekend as judges or mentors or help for the earlier class of entrepreneurs who are just learning what entrepreneurship is. But they are very different, and I think that's important to remember. How difficult is it for those companies to then move on to the next level? It's really difficult. So the average company coming out of one of our accelerator raises a bit over $1 million within a year. But you're not going to build a $1 billion company just because you've raised your first $1 million. Like getting to that next step and that next step and that next step. Each one of those steps is equally hard, if not harder, right? And so we try to help them at the beginning. And then we help them, for the time after the program, and then you're Techstars for life. So we're trying to help you the whole time. But we know from experience, each one of those gates of getting bigger and bigger as a startup is equally hard.
But I also add, if your question was, do accelerators work? If we're honest, they don't all work. There's 3,000 accelerators in the world, and many of them have not been effective at improving those terrible odds that you were describing in the beginning. Our stats are public. We publish them at techstars.com/companies, and you can go see every company that's ever been through Techstars and see if they're still alive, or if they've had an exit, or if they failed. And every night you can see the pie chart percentages change. It's at about 80% are still active, 10% have had exits, and about 10% have failed. So that's 90% success rate, at least for now. And those are great results, but I don't think that every accelerator can claim that it just helps entrepreneurs suddenly turn that magic on so that they become profitable, that they become one of the 1%.
Ok, pessoal, nós temos pouco tempo, nós temos mais 10 minutos apenas, e após isso nós vamos ter um break. Então vamos abrir para mais 2 perguntas. Pode até ser mais de 2 perguntas, contanto que elas sejam bem sucintas, pragmáticas e objetivas, ok? So guys,
2 questions.
Yeah, we have 2 questions. There you go. But we only have 10 more minutes because we have the break and then we have another panel. So let's try to be straight to the point.
Yeah, I have Mike here. Hey there, Cody. Nice to have you guys here in Brazil. My name is Hiro. My question is about Startup Next. We had last year in Recife. It was an amazing program. Because Brazil is an emerging country, we have a lot of startup week, you guys know that. But we have a poor connection between early startups and mature startups. And Startup Next is, we had, not with only fee, but we had great experience back there. We had 2 companies who had investment. They are in seed and accelerator in Brazil. So my question is, why not more Startup Next in Brazil? I think it fits incredibly in Brazil. I don't know other countries, but as we don't have other accelerators or a higher program, countryside or even in Recife, we had many good developers, but we don't have a good business scenario. And we have but why not Startup Next?
We need it.
It's really a question for Tony, right? Our model is, Tony is...
His fault.
His fault.
His fault.
Maybe it's
Tony, I can answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can answer. So, I think you should, but I'll just start. So Startup Next is going through a process because the problem is we have different regions. I should answer in Portuguese. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Ok. Então, o que está acontecendo é um processo, a gente tem diferentes regiões, e cada região está num estágio. E o que aconteceu no começo do ano é que foi uma falha nossa, realmente a gente reconhece, mas os diretores responsáveis pelo Next focou nessa nova versão do Next um pouco demais nas regiões mais avançadas. Né? A gente está tendo uma conversa agora atualmente sobre isso. O próprio conversei com o Cody ontem sobre isso, e ele tem a opinião de que o Next é importantíssimo para o Brasil. Eles não tinham muito essa noção, agora que quiseram para o Brasil eles têm ainda mais essa noção. E com certeza agora com o semestre a gente vai voltar ao normal, e vamos ao normal, mas obviamente com algumas melhorias que a gente fez, que conseguem ser adaptadas ao Brasil, e a gente vai voltar a rodar o Next sim. E vamos ter mais notícias pela frente.
I agree.
All right. So I mean, it comes down to the conversation we had, Cody. We talked. So Startup Next, we had yesterday.
I know. He doesn't know what you just. I don't know what you.
Well, we had a couple of academia, so you might not remember that. But the conversation we had about Startup Next be very valuable to Brazil and maybe not that valuable to other areas.
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be my direct answer to your question, which was we've been having this conversation this week, and I think we've seen the Brazilian markets and like where levels of support are needed, and I think we have to figure out what we want to do about it. The Startup Next seems like a good product for this market.
Hi guys, sorry to hacking process.
No, it's okay, but microphone, because there's people watching the internet.
Okay, but I'm just talking for the last time.
Okay, so if you're on the internet, you're not going to hear anything for a while.
Okay, I really appreciate you coming. I love doing everything Techstars doing. Tell me. Okay, but I'm hacking person, you fucking ass. Okay, you from both of them, man. You from both of them. In Brazil, we have Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. It's a big city in Brazil. What's your advice? What's your tips for guys here from the other states and far away from São Paulo? And what we fucking guys doing to building the great ecosystem in your places? I think this is big great questions.
There's a program called Startup Weekend. You should try that.
Okay, please. So the question is, what are we doing to build fucking ecosystems? Right? What should everyone here be doing?
My question is, how you guys from Boulder is the shit city in USA? But in New York, not
Thank God we don't have a
I'm
microphone.
from Los Angeles, man. Come on. I'm from Rio, but my family, my parents is from Ceará, man. Okay. Boulder is nothing in USA. How we can build great companies or great ecosystems in the far away in the big cities.
So I would say, Boulder has more startups per capita than anywhere in the world, because Boulder only has 100,000 people. But we have 4 accelerators, right? 1 just for marijuana. Because in Colorado it's legal.
I don't remember because I was moved there.
It's sponsored by Doritos. And I think that we're not trying to build ecosystems in Rio from Boulder. We're taking the little experiment that we did in Boulder that has worked really well for Boulder, and to the extent that other startup communities can benefit from experiences from not just Boulder, but other places all around the world to replicate that in their communities. That's what we're helping to try to do. Probably the best resource for that is from Brad's book, Startup Community, Brad Feld's book, another resident of Boulder. And startup communities and the Boulder thesis that he lays out in there explains how communities all around the world can replicate great startup ecosystems. We're not trying to do it from Boulder. We're just trying to help anybody by hiring and spreading, by investing in countries around the world to create other ecosystems that are maybe almost as good as Boulder.
One thing that I add to this, uma coisa que eu adiciono a isso, Mark, e você faz isso, você sabe disso, é que, cara,
o Startup Weekend às vezes pode parecer pequeno, mas ele cria essa mudança aos poucos. E não só o Startup Weekend, é mais os community leaders. O Startup Weekend, para mim, o Startup Weekend nada mais é do que uma ferramenta para encontrar esses community leaders que vão fazer essa mudança lá dentro, entendeu?
O que eu falo é o seguinte, o meu trabalho, você conhece bem isso, não só o meu, mas a gente acredita que ecossistemas distantes como Maceió, Pato Branco, no interior do Paraná, como São Luís, a gente tem um monte de cidade legal, só que aqui no Brasil a gente tem um complexo de caráter. A gente tem um complexo de só porque eu sou de longe, só porque eu não sou de São Paulo.
Mas estamos quebrando isso, cara. Maceió, cadê o pessoal de Maceió que agora chama de Hand Talk, tá aí, ganhando o prêmio da ONU.
Hand Talk, o
Tractor Pro tá aí, ganhando o prêmio.
A gente tem que fortalecer a galera que está aqui ouvindo, que tá embebecida de ver os gringos.
We don't care about you guys anymore.
I talk about this. We can improve at the moment that this guy here, looking you, watching you, because of course we love Techstars, we love everything like Techstars do, but we have a power. We can change my world, our time now, and you can advise us.
I have a dream. I have a dream.
Então, pessoal, com essa mensagem linda, maravilhosa, eu sinto muito, tá maravilhoso o papo aqui, muito divertido, inclusive, mas a gente tem que encerrar, nós vamos ter um outro painel. Ok, tá vendo, o Marcos, você trabalhou todo mundo. Juan, aproveito se você fizer a pergunta em 5 segundos.
Sorry!
Please go ahead. Last one, be very, very quick, and you guys do.
Mark, hoje é noite. Okay, no, I just wanted to ask you, I think we are, the last 10 years in venture capital, we had a recipe. The last 10 years before those had another recipe. And what do you think venture capital and all the startup ecosystem globally is changing, is transforming? Because it's not the same thing. I think it's going global. You are doing that, and so what do you think the VC pipeline and the global scenario will be like in 10 years?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that VC is changing dramatically right now. 20 years ago, it was a very, very closed industry. You dressed up, you went down literally a street in Silicon Valley called Sand Hill Road, and you went from door to door and you pitched VCs, in their big offices. Then about 10 years ago, there was a real move toward transparency in the venture capital industry. People like Brad Feld and Fred Wilson and Mark Suster started blogging and sharing, all of this stuff about how to work with VCs, what term sheets look like, how convertible debt works, and they really created a lot of transparency, specifically for first-time entrepreneurs, around the tricks that VCs maybe used to play to get better deals out of companies, and it really was a huge resource for entrepreneurs to help them negotiate for the business when raising capital, but also help them just with leadership advice and generally be helpful to startups. The rise of Twitter and social media helped that even more. And what that did was it also raised awareness of a lot of entrepreneurs who had exits that maybe I could do this VC thing, maybe I could seed invest. And it created a huge wave of angel investors and seed funds, or smaller than $50 million funds, which traditionally are just run by one or two people, they're not big firms. And traditionally the people who invest in those funds aren't big institutional investors, there may be other private individuals who are investing. I think what we've seen now and are starting to see is as that prevalence of seed and angel investing happened in the US, the entire world realizing, wow, this is an interesting industry. We're seeing the rise of entrepreneurship, the rise of startups around the world, and you're starting to see early signs of angel investors and seed investors in the rest of the world. For that to really take hold, you need to start to get the first generation of entrepreneurs in these countries to have big exits, right? Once you have entrepreneurs who've exited their businesses for millions of dollars and have money to be angel investors and seed investors, you'll get investors who are entrepreneurs, as opposed to investors who just happen to be wealthy people who don't know anything about startups, and often aren't the best investors because they don't know how to help a startup. So that's the trend that I've been seeing. You know, I don't know if you see anything else, but
No, I mean, I think that's right, and the movement to global is really important, and the days of Sand Hill Road are long gone, and I think, you know, the part of what we're trying to do is to democratize the investing process, so investors will be forced to come to where the startups are, rather than forcing the startups to go to where the investors are.
Thank you,